but my bad, y'all. And we are live. What is going
This
on?
time.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Bunker Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping our ecosystem start and grow businesses. I'm your host, the one and only Iron Mike Stedman, joined by my co-host Amy Morrison, and our guest today, Jaden Risner. Did I get it right, Jaden?
You got it. Thanks,
All
Mike.
right. Jaden's a fellow Naval Academy grad. He's a VIR alumni, and he's doing some amazing work with his tech company. We want to get him on the platform. Now, Amy, I know we don't have any major announcements today, but is there anything we want to pass on to the community before we start chopping it up with Jaden?
Sure. Yeah, as always, you can check out events happening in your area. We don't have any apps open right now, but if you go to bunkerlabs.com/communities, you can find what's going on at a city near you. And then also not open yet, but I just wanted to do a quick shout out that veterans and residents applications open in September. So if you are waiting for that, it's coming soon. So, maybe check out the website, bunkerlabs.org/VIR to check out what the requirements are for that one.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Shout out to those tuning in. My man Josh always comes to office hours. He's like an office hours fanboy. And I want you to know we appreciate you guys for tuning in when we come live like this. And we're excited to have Jaden here. And I'm gonna tell you why. Okay. Number one, both of us are Naval Academy grads, just putting it out there, beat Army. The second thing is I know a lot of members of our community are interested in starting are interested in launching a startup, right? And obviously, a venture-backed startup or bootstrap startup is a different set of challenges, from a traditional small business, et cetera. And so I'm really excited to have you on here to kind of share your journey and also how you've been able to overcome a lot of those challenges with, building the product, going to market, all the stuff that they tell us, right? Don't focus so much on your product. You also got to create the market for it, et cetera. So I think you're going to provide a lot of value to the audience. So without further ado, Jaden, I would love for you to start by introducing yourself and telling everybody about Family Proud.
Yeah, awesome. Where do I start? Right. It's like you said, the journey. It's long and super excited to share. So thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And I think the background and the why is certainly most important around Family Proud. So like you said, Naval Academy, was fortunate to do about 12 years active duty, was a helicopter pilot in the Navy, a lot of time away from home. So part of this post 9/11 generation, as many of you out there were. And one of my deployments received notification that my mom actually had a heart attack. And so that 7,000 miles away from home at the time on the expeditionary side, and asked me those questions. What do I do? What are those next steps? What resources are best going to be able to support her? And really putting myself in the shoes of a caregiver. So I actually left active duty service to become a caregiver for my mom. Was fortunate to go back through business school here in San Diego as part of that transition, and met our co-founder Clay, who was actually a Marine Corps staff sergeant. So it's always good to have a staff sergeant by your side to make sure things are moving in the right direction. But he was a artillery, then counter intel on that side of the house, and he was also a two-time cancer survivor. And so our story together, certainly from a mission focus, myself understanding that caregiver side, him understanding that patient advocacy side, came together and said, amazing people out there doing a lot of work in the health space and helping cancer patients and certainly families, but not as much focused on answering that question, how can I help in that support network, right? More than a Facebook group, more than a GoFundMe. And so Clay and I set out to climb this mountain, and the mountain was, how do we ultimately address some of these health equities across the board? No one family deserves better care than another. And how do we ultimately create something that's actually a platform designed for care, that is mindful of who you are, who your family is, mindful of what you're going through, and provides that same type of accessibility to lessons learned, activating that support network, knowing about resources you may not even know that are out there. And Family Proud was born, and that was the beginning of the journey. So, high level, Family Proud is a platform designed for care. We make receiving and providing support for your loved one as simple as possible. So we say it's the simplest way to show you care. Instead of clustering of group texts, GoFundMes, Facebook groups, the ability to have a platform that allows you to easily invite your loved ones, your support network on, and then provides them those action items on how they can support. You may be out in New Jersey, you can't be here in San Diego to watch the kids, walk the dog, bring dinner tomorrow. There's only 50 sets of flowers that you could bring, but now it can prompt, you can pay into Jaden's care registry to help pay for anticipated out-of-pocket expenses around products and services. So think wedding registry, but for care and serving up those mindful recommendations. And so I'll pause there. I know we're going to dive into it, but ultimately high-level platform for care. Everyone on the team is mission aligned. So 2 veterans, veteran founded, a couple other veterans on the team, another Naval Academy grad in our ops role. We got an Air Force veteran, early Iraq war veteran there as our head of marketing. So, very veteran heavy from that standpoint. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I got a couple questions. One thing I'm a proponent of with our entrepreneurs is validating that there's a market need for your product or service. And so I'm interested in learning from you, how did you validate that this is something you could actually build a business model around?
Yeah, so, of course, there's personal experience, but we needed to test that. So we had the fortune at the time of having all these things drilled into us through business school. Caveat, of course, but you don't need an MBA to start a business. It's just kind of an approach and, one way to fast track it. But by no means does that replace kind of the hustle and grit and, tough things are tough, right? So the aspect for us to validate, one, a ton of market research, hands-on, whether that's talking directly to social workers, talking directly to caregivers, talking to families, identifying exactly what their needs are, talking to them about those alternatives and what were some of those gaps. And so we really have always said putting families first. So how do we create value for someone looking to support a family member, and of course those looking to receive support? Extremely challenging problem set, right? It's not just how do we improve the efficiency of a washing machine? We're talking about emotions, we're talking about cultural community differences, we're talking about gaps in resource and unresourced. So very complex, and those needs shift. And that's where the power of technology can come in, is that it captures these lessons learned to be able to provide smart recommendations. But a lot of just on the ground, boots on the ground, talking to families, and then ultimately the organizations that serve them as well, right? You've got people out there that have been doing this their entire lives, serving loved ones, especially social workers, and the amount of knowledge and information that they have in terms of where there's gaps is pretty significant.
When you started, did you think that in order to bring this vision to life, you would have to go out and raise venture capital for it? Or did you go into the mind like, hey, I think we can bootstrap this thing, start getting some revenue growing, and then if we need to take on capital, we'll use it for growth purposes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the initial approach was we're going to be able to bootstrap this, maybe need a nominal amount, but looking at being open to creative sources of that type of support, not necessarily institutional. And I think what we found, we were able to do that at an early stage, but also recognize to be able to scale something that we're doing and deliver the highest level of support and services, it does require additional capital at a certain inflection. Of course, when you first set out starting the mountain, you may not have all the gear, of course, learning all the founder lessons along the way too, but we set out initially saying, hey, let's just start climbing this, surround ourselves with people that are smarter and more capable, and we'll figure it out.
When you're sitting inside the classrooms, right, whether it's a Y Combinator startup school, or business school, or even Bunker Labs, right, we fire everybody up. Yeah, you can do this. You can build this business, etc. What has the reality been like building a tech platform and introducing it into the market? What are some of the challenges that you were not expecting?
Ooh, not expecting. Let's see. This is an ultra marathon, right? I think it comes back to even like the military analogy, the human is the most valuable asset, right? Which this is a long game. So from the technology side, of course, it's going to take longer. It's going to be more difficult. Finding the right people is so critical, and the ability from even a product standpoint is so critical. And translating, say, vision into execution from a technology platform, there's so many requirements involved with that, right? And there's so many, I'd say, forks in the road that are dangerous, that can take you off the cliff in terms of your timeline, your spend, just even your effort, right? So I think the biggest thing is ultimately how long, this can potentially take, for something this complex, right? And the commitment required to that. I don't think it was a question that it was going to be difficult, but I think the other interesting twist to our story is that neither Clay and I have a technology background, right? So a lot of people say, "But you guys started a technology company, and neither of you guys were in technology." It's like, yeah, that's right. We identified that there was a need. We believed in the mission. We knew that it was on us to be able to build a team to support that vision, which we've done over time and done that pretty diligently. But the number of hands and necessary to do this from a product standpoint is a lot more than probably we initially planned for.
Yeah, you've been going at it, hooking and jabbing for what, over 4 years now?
Yep, that's right.
How do you take care of yourself as an entrepreneur? Because that's something I've been talking about more on the transition platform is, as founders, right? It's a grind, and
Yep.
Simon Sinek's got his whole start with the why. And I've talked to multiple entrepreneurs who I really respect, and I always ask them a book recommendation. And there's a consistent trend I'm seeing about Simon Sinek start with the why. So finally, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and get the book on Audible. But I'm curious to learn, how are you able to maintain momentum and energy to stay in the fight?
Yeah, I mean, one, surround yourself with supportive people. I think that's, ultimately, and there's different stages of through your startup journey, but there's amazing people out there that want to pay it forward, want to support, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so I think, especially from a veteran background, figuring it out, asking that question, message Garcia, all of the above, but surrounding yourself with as much support as possible, whether that's in your internal team, whether it's in your advisors, to get you moving to those next junctures. From a personal standpoint, of course, everything works is different for every person, but physical, mental, and I think the number one thing is just being aware. I think that self-awareness is key to knowing when you're redlining or approaching that red line. Sometimes it is necessary to redline, and then when do you step away? When do you clear that calendar? When do you, do a nice reset, right? And that time, and I'm guilty of it. I think we're all guilty of it at times, not listening to ourselves, but keeping yourself in that physical and mental shape is critical. And it goes back to that adage, you need to be in top condition to be able to support others, right? You have to take care of yourself first to be able to take care of others. And so my situation a little bit unique because I'm taking care of, my mother as well, family, generationally, there's some interesting things there. So, but being aware and then essentially being intentional with those actions, because at the end of the day, there's no immediate fires. Sometimes there may be, but it's important to be able to make those commitments.
I find it interesting, how when we first come in this ecosystem, right? Everybody tells us, "Oh, you served in the military, nothing's hard for you," etc. Right? I don't know about you, but being an entrepreneur for me feels way harder than being in the military. Because I think we're so used to I don't know, every day was kind of, you knew what to expect. There was some uncertainty, obviously, when you're deployed overseas and stuff, but there was structure. But as an entrepreneur, man, you're dealing with the ebbs and flows of emotion. You don't got that commanding officer over you. You got to be the one to set conditions for yourself, what winning looks like. And like you said, prioritizing that you're making sure you're taking care of home base, because you can get in the grind and you're growing and you're just like a hacker. You're just there at the computer. You got the chips and the soda and the Monster. And then next thing you know, man, you end up in the hospital your damn self.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I think veterans are great in controlled chaos, if you will, and kind of directing that fire and priorities. But to your point, way more uncertainty and higher level of risk on the entrepreneur side. And so, like you said, you're setting your own game plan and strategy versus maybe having an understanding of where you fit into that mold and kind of being on your own and figuring it out. But yeah, that's and to your point of the ebbs and flows, I think this is also where, from an emotion standpoint, this is me personally, having that steady state. Because if you ride the wave, and it's important, don't get me wrong, celebrate your wins, understand when you take a step back, do your hot wash, reassess, maybe actions that didn't work. But at the same time, if you can't ride that wave up and all the way up and all the way down, because that will, that's extremely wearing. So the ability to maintain the steady state and, kind of eyes on the prize, if you will, for us, keep climbing that mountain. So
Now you do have a support network because you're in the veterans in residence. And so talk to us about your experience in that program. That's how I came through the bunker. You know, I went to a Bunker Labs event in New York City. Next thing I know, I was in the VIR cohort in New York City. And I want to say that was early 2019. But that gave me the confidence after I completed that 6 months to go in on Ironbound full time.
No, yeah, awesome. I mean, knowing that one, the veteran aspect, people that you trust, right? So regardless of stage, what you're doing, asking for help, you know, that is a stigma, which, you know, separately on the care side is a huge discussion. But ability to know that you can trust some of that feedback that people are providing you within a cohort or community. And so, you know, definitely appreciated the VIR community here in San Diego. Is just getting kicked off at the time. But know that it's at the end of the day, you know, your ability to connect to other veteran entrepreneurs. And what I actually appreciate the most about it too is you kind of skip the BS, right? I think sometimes in this ecosystem, you talk to entrepreneurs, oh, how's everything going? Oh, everything's great. It's like, no, it's not, you know, but nothing's, I mean, sure, you could celebrate wins and be positive, but I think like you cut through past the BS and just get to the heart and core of what's going on. Hey, what are the challenges? How can I help? And being able to trust that, I think that's what's been, and like you said, gives you that confidence to know that you've got a support network right behind you.
Yeah, I always ask entrepreneurs, I'm like, how's the hustle? And then they give me the straight answer, right? It's,
Yeah.
less about that. Oh, yeah, man, we're killing it. Da-da-da. Whenever I ask how's the hustle, they get open and honest.
Yep.
So what I want to do now is we've got some people tuning in. If you've got questions for Jaden, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Let's ask them on the show. And while people are tuning in, how can we help support the work you're doing with Family Proud? Like, what's your ask, and how can we activate this community to help support you?
Yeah, awesome. So for us, we're looking for partners. One, from the aspect, if you have a product or service in your company or you know of that is meant for families or caregivers, please get in touch with us. You know, we're connecting families to those different resources. And if you have connections to an organization that serves families, whether that's a nonprofit, foundation, even your company internal, if you're looking for a better way to serve your families through a technology platform designed for care, that's certainly our focus. And we have an upcoming fundraise as well. So, you know, as a side note, if there are appropriate introductions in that realm to anyone who might be interested in our opportunities, certainly appreciate the support.
I was telling him before we went live, you know, one of the benefits of being a host of a platform like this and the Transition Podcast is getting access to the ecosystem. So I was giving him a rundown of, you know, Bill Militello and LocalVest. That's a great platform. You've got the Academy Investor Network, right, which is an angel syndicate. And they also have a venture fund. I told him to go ahead and apply to Veteran Shark Tank, right? Shout out to Alex and the work that they're doing in Philadelphia, bringing veterans together. You got the Rice Veteran Pitch Battle. So there's a whole ton of resources out there available to the community because, again, I got my start, thank God, by a 25K grant I got from the Street Shares Foundation. And God knows what my life would have looked like if I didn't have that. But there's tons of resources out there. So we got to make sure we're connecting the community with them. And so as you come across funding opportunities for Jaden, please drop them a note in LinkedIn. Tag them online. It costs nothing. It takes nothing. You know, J&J Quickfire Challenge coming up here. We already got done with it this year, but hopefully they'll do it again. But this is how this works, right? People always talk about, oh, networking. Help other people win. Literally, if you come across something that benefits a veteran entrepreneur, just tag them and let them do the work from there. So as we transition to one of my favorite parts of office hours, book recommendations. I'm an autodidact, Jaden, so I'm always reading, but I'm curious to learn, you know, what book recommendation do you have for our audience today?
Yeah, awesome. So right in line with the self-care piece, book called The Conscious Caregiver. And it's really a discussion around how do you not burn out, but still prioritize and take care of your loved ones. And that's been part of my journey and challenge. And that applies, right? That could be your own family, that could be a loved one, your own team. I think to take away from that as well, 2020, we can't not talk about that, right? I think a lot of that in terms of supporting our loved ones, either close or remote, but also creating an environment and culture in your team that is appropriate and is caring to help people, you know, being mindful, right? Have those coffee calls, check in with people. It's not just about the work, right? It's about the culture And you can see a lot of loyalty and dedication, as you know, in creating an actual team and culture who's committed to being there and know that there's a supportive environment. So just being mindful how to be aware of yourself and be a good caregiver.
Piggybacking off that, my recommendation for today is The Art of Impossible by Steve Cutler, I believe is his name. And one of the things I've been studying a lot lately is like human performance, and not the hokey pokey stuff. Positive affirmations and stuff are good, but we also need to take action. But The Art of Impossible literally breaks down, the mindset and how you can set yourself up to get in flow, because that's where a lot of the stuff we have comes from, right? That optimal work environment where you're just clicking and you're grinding out. But it talks about how you can set yourself up for that. And I'll share with you all 2 big takeaways I got from the book. Number 1, on Monday, for some reason, I found myself feeling super anxious. Those days where you're just anxious, you're thinking about the future. And what had happened was I had sent my book off for copy. I got it from the copy editor and I sent off for publication. And I felt like I woke up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning. And so I'm just super anxious all day. But one of the things I took away from the book is whenever you find yourself in this state of anxiousness, and it's easy to do with recession, layoffs, all this other stuff, number 1, take some time for mindfulness, even if it's just 10 minutes of meditation. Write 3 things that you're grateful for, right? Get some exercise, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes on a treadmill, and then get a good night's rest, right? Doesn't sound like it's the most complicated thing in the world, but simple stuff like that is how you can set yourself up for success. And the other takeaway I got was on grit, right? And it said, real grit comes from being able to perform at your best on your worst day, right? And I think about that going back to my time, Jaden, at the Naval Academy as a boxer. When you're off, but still being able to get in the ring and perform, that's super powerful. So I really like that book. And again, this is for all you tuning in. Don't just watch this content, right? Or listen to the podcast or participate in the programs without implementing the stuff, right? Like Jaden gave you guys a lot of insight into what it takes to build a startup, bootstrap it, etc. Take this and actually apply it, right? Because you can find yourself where you're just consuming content all day, but you're not actually using it to move your ventures forward. So that's why I'm a big proponent of breaking these books down, sharing them with you all so you guys can see the actual takeaways. So as we wrap up here, Jaden, is there anything you would like to leave our audience with, some words of encouragement as they continue on their own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't give up. And I would say the 2 kind of just highlight points, self-care for you and your team. And second, leading with humility. There's a lot of people out there that want to support and will support you. I think, most veterans, are humble in that aspect, but it goes a long way when there's this humility and those thank yous and the appropriate, follow-ups and being genuine in that, through the process pays dividends regardless of, what those interactions are. I think prioritizing that is something that's worked well for us and is important to me.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on here. I'm excited to see Family Proud continue to grow, and let's elevate the brand so people get out there, start tagging people, push some capital his way, and let's keep supporting each other. And for everyone tuning in, as always, I need you to make sure you subscribe to the Transition Podcast. You can do it right now if you haven't done so already. We have some fire episodes. We got a great back catalog. We got some exciting interviews coming up. One of the episodes I did recently was make sure you're taking care of yourself. Just go work out. If you haven't worked out, right, get those endorphins going. Get rid of that brain fog because, again, you can get beat up out here trying to bring this venture to life. Also, let us know what topics you'd like us to cover on the show or on office hours, right? This is your platform. So if there's content you want to see from us on the marketing side of the house, please let us know. Head over to bunkerlabs.org, get plugged in. We got programs that'll take you from idea to invoice, position alongside other founders and CEOs. All it takes is going to the website and sign up for the newsletter. Stay up to date. Until next week, peace, love, and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.